What's up, everybody, and welcome to the final week of the NHL season. We finally made it. We'll be watching playoff hockey at the end of this week. This is Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus. We're so happy to be back with you guys after what was a wild debacle on Thursday. We apologize for the poor Wi-Fi from St. Louis, and unfortunately, we couldn't get you guys a full show on Thursday, but we will try to do our best to make up for it today. We got Ken Daneyko joining at 9:15 to talk about the Devils and that Paul Cotter hit yesterday on Adam Pelech. I will probably get into more Devils-focused stuff for a little bit as well. You're going to say something about Biz?
No, I think I might end up with people are probably not going to like what I have to say about the Cotter hit. I have a feeling that I think people might be shouting at me from the chat today.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think some people might see it the way you see it. But, Colby, you're fresh off the Frozen Four. I spent the weekend in Sioux Falls, both of us doing a bunch of different stuff over the past week. But it's great to be back with you, honestly. And it's nice to have just you and I for a bit here. And I know we'll have Ken Daneyko on for about 10, 15 minutes. But the show will be mostly just you and me, the way it was made, the way it was intended. So it's good to be back with you. I missed you last week. We didn't have you Wednesday. So it's been a while since it's just been you and I on here. But talk about the Frozen Four, man. I mean, Western Michigan gets their first ever national championship. You win the bracket. I know you're going to brag about that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't send screenshots to me and Vic 3 times throughout the weekend.
I mean, look.
Do you give yourself $100?
Kind of poetic that we had 237 people join the Morning Cuppa NCAA Challenge. And, like, I did win. I mean, there might be something to that.
You're just a winner.
There might be something to that. You know what's really funny? Before the game, I actually pulled it up on my phone and I showed it to Pat Ferschweiler.
Really?
I showed it to him because we were talking maybe about an hour and a half before puck drop, and he was like, "Hey, don't forget to work in a couple of nice comments about Western Michigan tonight." Mm-hmm. He said, "I know against Denver, you had lots of good things to say." He's like, "But tonight, like." He's like, be sure you don't forget to mix in a couple of. So I was like, you know what, Pat? I was like, let me show you something. So I pulled up my bracket and I showed it to him, and I said to him, just remember what I said at the selection show. I said it on the selection show. I said, this is Western's year. You know, they're built for this. And they were. They were built for it. So that was a dominant performance. I would say 6-2. It might not have even been that close, honestly. It really might not have been. I think Western Michigan pretty much dominated 50 of the 60 minutes of that hockey game. I would be pretty confident in saying. So good for those guys. And you know, now we wait and we see. It's funny. I have like a list of players who signed NHL contracts from the Frozen Four that are actually going to play in the NHL here this week.
Yeah,
Quinn Hudson's going to play tonight for Edmonton.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Green's going to play for
Chicago.
And Devin Kaplan's going to play this week for the Flyers, for the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't even know if that's been announced yet that he signed.
I haven't seen that.
But I could tell you right now that he's going to play for the Philadelphia Flyers this week.
I wonder if Shane will get a game with the Devils. I saw there was a rumor that he was signing yesterday, but I haven't seen the official.
He signed.
He did sign officially?
Not a rumor. Shane signed.
Oh, I didn't see the official signing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's been announced, but I can tell you right now he signed. Question becomes: does Bump sign from Western? I would think so. Yeah. Although, like, maybe he just needs to go play a game and then go back and party your face off.
I was just saying, yeah, he probably wants to just enjoy the week.
Yeah, yes and no, because you want to get that NHL game in.
Yeah.
Like, you want to get those 1 or 2 games. And Buyam, I think, is going to play tonight for Minnesota as well. And I think Buyam is going to be the best one of them all. Does Minnesota not play tonight? Is it Tuesday?
I think it's Tuesday. I don't see Minnesota playing tonight.
Yeah. And so And then with King from Denver, Devine also signed from Denver.
Yeah.
Neither of those guys are going right to the National Hockey League. Those guys are both going American League this year. Contracts will kick in next year. So there's only been one first round pick, I think, in the last, like, I don't know, number of Frozen Fours that actually won an NCAA championship. And it makes you wonder with these guys, like, are you too worried about your NHL deal? It's been mostly undrafted Frozen Four MVPs. I think there's one drafted Frozen Four MVP. I saw like a list somebody sent to me in the last like 10. So it definitely makes you curious about the dynamic behind all that, because, like, listen, I love Shane LaChance. He's a great kid. I love Ryan Green. I love Quinn Hudson. None of those guys played well in the Frozen Four. None of them played well for BU, and that was their top line. So on the reverse side, Alex Bump
he was the best player by far. I mean, I didn't see most of the championship game. But the
didn't have
Thursday
a
night game, he was unbelievable.
He did not have a point in the Frozen Four, but he was still really, really valuable.
I think he had like 10 shots on Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, he was really valuable. So I think Pat Ferschweiler is going to get an interview at the Philadelphia Flyers. I would bet money on it, to be honest. I think the Flyers are also going to try to court David Carl. The other thing I will say, I said on DFO Live, I did DFO Live Friday, and I said, I want to pour water on this David Carl to the Chicago Blackhawks thing. I need to walk that back a little, because I'd say on April 2nd, when I had lunch with DC, when we were just together meeting up in Manchester, I got a much different sense than I got from him when I saw him the day after they lost in the Frozen Four. I was with him and Paul Stastny for a little bit, and he didn't come out and say to me, I'm going to the NHL. But I heard a very different tone in his voice about the NHL, about the Chicago Blackhawks, about some of these other teams. So I said that on DFO Live, and I was really sure. And now I would say I was wrong in the fact that I was really sure that he wouldn't go to the NHL. Now I think it's completely fair game, and I think there's a good chance David Carl does go to the NHL. There's a good chance. I wouldn't say it's a 90% chance.
Yeah,
but there's a good chance it happens.
Well, yeah, we were saying a month ago that why would he leave, and now that conversation is no longer existent. Probably that's what you're saying.
Yeah, just talking to him a little bit and just hearing a little bit of a different tone in his voice about it. I think that the number is going to have to be big. I think you're talking about at least $4 million a year for him.
Yeah.
And I think you're talking about at least a 5-year deal. And I think if someone is willing to meet that, I think he would be much more interested in entertaining it. So, and I, from what I hear, he's pretty high up the list for a couple of teams.
So just to round out the whole Frozen Four, what was your main takeaway? Because there was a lot of stuff on social media Thursday, and our friend Grinnell was leading the charge with the crowd, and
sucked on Thursday.
It was bad. It was bad Thursday.
It was a dead. The building was dead. The energy was dead on Thursday. Saturday was different. I thought Saturday the Western Michigan fans all drove down from Kalamazoo 5.5 hours, and it was a Western Michigan home game, and it was much, much better. So give credit where credit is due to the Western Michigan fans for getting in the car and taking the trip down. So St. Louis in general, like, I think they did a solid job. I think what's tough with St. Louis is nobody really wants to stay downtown in St. Louis. It's really interesting, and next year the Frozen Four is in Vegas, so that's pretty cool. And it was an interesting weekend. I'm not gonna lie. I had something pretty interesting happen to me personally. I had to meet with on I guess it would have been Friday morning. I had to meet with the local FBI in St. Louis because I received a plethora of death threats from
What?
Penn State fans
Actually?
on Thursday night, and one of them had was like, I know what town you live in, and I know where your family is, and so it
What did
was.
you say? What did you possibly say?
I don't respond to these people, but with ESPN, like they have a security team. So when these things happen, you give them to the security team, and then the security team, runs them down to see if they're credible. They look at IP addresses or whatever, and they obviously felt like they didn't like what they were seeing, so they had to get in touch with the FBI. And at the game, there was I had like an extra security person walking around with me
No
for
way.
Saturday. Because one, you're not going to make it out of St. Louis alive, blah blah blah. So I was a little disappointed in Penn State fans for that. I didn't realize that's how they were. And I'm sure not all of them are like that, especially when Penn State just like hits close to home because of where I live, obviously.
Yeah. That's surprising.
Here's the reality. When your team plays like shit for 2 periods, we talk about the other team. That's just how it goes, you know? And when you give us nothing to talk about, we talk about the other team. Cole Hudson gave us a lot to talk about the first 2 periods, so we talked about Cole Hudson. First 2 periods of the Western Michigan Denver game, what could we say about Denver? We talked about David Carl. They had 7 shots.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
During the championship game, we talked about Western for almost 3 periods because they were the better team. They were the dominant team. So, so that was a first for me. Like, I'm used to negativity, but that was
not death threats.
that was a whole nother level of like, wow, people, this is a little insane. This is a hockey game. It's a little insane.
Yeah. Kind of nuts. But listen, we do have our guest here, so tough to transition out of death threats into New Jersey Devils talk.
Oh, I think it's pretty easy.
We're gonna try to do it. I guess yesterday with the Cotter hit yesterday, maybe it is perfect timing. But we'll talk more after we have Ken on about just like other things with personal lives and whatnot. But I do want to read Ken in here because I don't want to keep him waiting. So before we bring Ken Daneyko on, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15, in all caps, Hockey15. And we've got Ken looking good as ever right here on the show. Ken, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good, fellas. How are you?
We're good. We're good. I think we're actually all on the same side. I know you're expecting us to talk about this hit yesterday. And I think Colby and I agree that I don't think Cotter really did this on purpose.
It's a horrible outcome for to me an innocent hockey play.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it. And if you look at this in slow motion and you live and die by slow motion, you're lying to yourself, because the game of hockey, people, is not played in slow motion. Ken, you played this game as fearless as a competitor as any human being that's ever done it, right? So what did you think about this unfortunate incident? Because it is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, knowing Paul Cotter, obviously, I don't believe there was any ill intent whatsoever. He finishes his checks. Pelech is leaning a little bit. Having said that, there is contact to the head. It is what it is, guys. And, obviously, he's going to have a hearing today. And is there a game suspension? Possibly. I would think so, maybe. But we'll wait and see. That's all you can do. I mean, obviously, again, Connor's a guy that, like a lot of players, everything happens so quickly in the National Hockey League, and he's trying to finish and go through his man, but it was kind of a play that went wrong, and you let the NHL hierarchy and player safety make that decision on whether he gets a game or whatever it may be. Hope Pelech's okay. We always wish for the health.
For sure.
Health for all the players in the National Hockey League. Doesn't matter who you're playing, rivals, whatever it may be. I mean, I'm always a guy. I want to see the game physical, obviously. These guys skate so fast. Everything happens so quickly. There's going to be incidences along the way. And that's kind of how I look at it. So we'll see what transpires. But the Devils certainly need Paul Cotter ready to go for the playoffs, and hopefully it's nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Possibly a game suspension. Who knows? But
do you agree with the premise, Ken, that watching these things in slow motion it's not always an accurate depiction of what actually happened on the ice? Or do you think slow motion tells the story?
look, you can pick apart anything when you slow things down, right? Whether it's a hit, whether it's a play around your net, and you make a decision, well, he's got to have that guy covered. But again, it's always easy from up top and watching 10 times slow-mo for sure. But, you put it in the hands of player safety. That's the bottom line. They have their guidelines. It's always subjective, and we will see what transpires here. But I don't make a ton of it. I mean, obviously, if Cotter could take it back, I'm sure he would have liked to get the body or the shoulder more so than the head. And I believe all players believe that along the way. And sometimes, like you guys mentioned, a hit goes wrong. But like I said, hope Pelech's okay. That's the bottom line. And the Devils have to focus on other things and get themselves ready for the playoffs.
And I will say too, I've had the chance to talk to Paul Cotter a couple of times. That is one of the more hilarious personalities in the NHL. I don't think people really know about. That guy is a lot of fun to talk to.
He's a character for sure.
He is a character. But one thing I wanted to add to here, Ken, just because the conversation around the Devils, and we haven't really talked about the Devils in detail over the past few weeks since Jack went down, but everyone thought this team was going to fall off. And granted, they've had a bit of a rocky go here towards the end. They haven't been great. They haven't been bad. They've just been a little bit inconsistent here down the stretch. But that said, it feels like none of the pressure is on them for this first round matchup against Carolina. And with the way Nico Hischier's played all year, with the way Jesper Bratt's played all year, this team does have a chance. And I wanted just to get your opinion on, how we actually do rank the Devils' chances against Carolina here in the first round.
Well, look, I mean, obviously they're underdogs for a reason. The Carolina Hurricanes have quite a bit of playoff experience. It's what you see is what you get for the Canes. It's been no different for the last 5 years or so. I mean, they play a swarming in-your-face style. They're much better on home ice, obviously, or the results are. They're a team that is tough to manage, certainly if they forecheck you in your own zone and you spend too much time in your zone and give them second and third opportunities, you're going to be in trouble. You got to get the puck up quickly. I don't think the Devils can play as much east-west as they should north-south. And first outlet, you got to get the puck out. The Canes really thrive, in my opinion, on teams turning the puck over, hanging on to it too long, and being a team that can score when they have those second, third looks. And if you don't come out clean, you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's something they'll focus on. And I don't take a whole lot out of how you finish or the results, especially that you've been locked in for the last week as far as the Devils go. I mean, you can look at recent history in the playoffs, so many teams, and I go way back to my years. Sometimes we went into the playoffs hot. Sometimes we went in scuffling, and we won the Stanley Cup. I mean, the playoffs is a whole new season. The old cliche, game at a time, period at a time. You wipe the slate clean. So, yeah, do you always play to win. You want to win some games. And they got a couple left here and maybe feel a little better overall. But it's been up and down since January, really, with the Devils. Injuries is part of that. It's not an excuse, but yeah, they're missing some key guys. But I think they've settled in and understand they don't have Jack Hughes. They may have Dougie Hamilton, which could be a big boost for them. Come playoff time here, looks like he might be able to go. I'm still unsure like everybody else, but I think he's ramping up and getting closer and closer. He changes the dynamic, certainly in the offensive zone and certainly on the power play where you have to score. Special teams is so important. The Devils combined are the best team in the National Hockey League in special teams and PK and power play as far as percentage. So that's a good sign. They've done some good things on the special teams. Carolina's number one on the penalty kill. And you're not going to score much against them on the power play, but you better get a timely one, a key one along the way. And if Dougie Hamilton is in, it makes a big difference. He's a guy that can beat a goalie clean from the point. There's only a handful of defensemen that can do that without a screen, even, really, in my estimation. So hopefully he can do that along the way and help the Devils if in fact he's in. But yeah, I agree with you from the standpoint, guys. The Devils are playing with house money. They have to have that mentality, but you've got to compete. If you don't compete against Carolina, it's going to be tough to win. And I don't think you can be too tentative. I think sometimes teams go into Carolina and play too tentative on their heels, see how it's going to go kind of attitude. I think they got to go after it and have some fun here. To me, it was important for them to get in the playoffs because you need that experience, regardless if not much is expected. It's different. There's always upsets in the playoffs. They have to expect a lot from themselves. That's the only thing that really matters here. And try to upset the Carolina Hurricanes, who are favorites, and again, rightfully so. But in the long haul here, and when they're going to be a contender or whatever it may be, and they hope so in the next few years and can stay healthy, this time of year is invaluable. So it's important to get these games and understand what it takes on a nightly basis. They still got a core group that hasn't played a ton of playoff hockey, so this is important, but they give themselves a chance. I know that. You got to be quietly confident in your own room. That's what it's all about, guys. And we will see come game one in Carolina. But for them, it was reeling pretty good for a while there.
Yeah.
Back went down, and for them to scratch, claw, do whatever it took to be in the playoffs, whether it be teams below them, gave them some help along the way. Well, that's all part of it. You did what you had to do. That's why it's an 82-game schedule, and they got themselves in.
Yeah, and you talk about getting Dougie Hamilton back, and you get your top pair defenseman back, and then it gets a guy like Luke Hughes better matchups. Really, just it gets Dumoulin and Kovacevic better matchups. Like it just really slots guys in a little bit of a better situation. I'm curious for you, obviously a longtime defenseman in this league. Ken, what you've seen in the development for Luke Hughes, because, when he played college hockey, which I did a lot of his games at that level, there wasn't a big onus on defending. It was all about moving forward, playing forward, being down below the goal line, whatever. When I watch him with the Devils, to me, he seems more defensively aware, while all defensemen at his age need more time to really learn the position. What have you seen with Luke Hughes in this second full season in his growth and development as a player with this new coaching staff?
Well, I think just more confident, more assertive, and yes, as he improved his defensive game and play away from the puck, no question about it as far as just understanding how to balance out that offense. I mean, the game in general, for all young players we see, has transitioned and evolved where, yeah, offense is a big part of it, puck possession, and these guys are so skilled and skate so well. He's one of the best skating defensemen in the National Hockey League. I mean, and when he's got his feet moving and he's a one-man breakout, and that's going to be important for the Devils here, especially against the Canes team that comes at you so hard along the way. And yeah, Carolina being at home, they get the matchups, and I think that's a big advantage that they've had in their building, and their fans really create a buzz there. So that's why I think they're so much better at home than they have been on the road anyway so far during the regular season this year. But Luke Hughes is going to be a big part of that. What he does so well because of that skating ability is he closes quickly in the neutral zone, where players, after a turnover, whatever it may be, the opposition thinks they've got time coming up the ice to make a play, and bam, he's on you. He's got a long reach. He uses his stick extremely well. He's really improved in that area. The turnovers have been at a minimum compared to his rookie season. And for me, that's all young defensemen. It takes 2, 3, 4 years, 300 games, as we like to say, for defensemen to really understand, I can't just go and get 2 chances or create 2 or 3 chances and give up 2 or 3 chances every night or every period, as whatever way you want to look at it. And he's really done a good job, I think, of balancing that out, understanding, take what's given to you, and live to fight another day at times when it's not there, or trying to create something on a 1-on-3, whatever it may be. But I've really liked his play. I think he's going to be just an elite defenseman in this league. He's getting there. He's still got a ways to go, but he's a special player. As the Hughes family's a special group, and certainly Quinn Hughes, one of the best defensemen in the league. He's got a lot to lean on there with his brother Quinn, giving him a little advice. And we know what Jack Hughes is in the National Hockey League. Very dynamic player, even though he won't be here for the Devils, unfortunately, come playoff time. But I've really liked his game, and he cares. I mean, he, just being around it and being around him all the time, he wants to win. He wants to get better. He's a real pro, and he understands that he's an important piece to this team because of the fact that he is the best skater on the team, one of the best skating defensemen, like I said, in the league. He's a guy that puts a lot of responsibility on himself, but I really feel he's balanced it out, and he's talked about it. He said, I've really improved my defensive game. I've taken pride in it, and it's shown. It's really shown here, guys. So we will see going into the playoffs. But what I do remember, Luke Hughes came in 2 years ago, played a game against the Canes in the eliminating game, and played 25 minutes and stepped right in and actually was probably the Devils' best defenseman. So he's ready for this kind of challenge come playoff time, where everything's ramped up, everything is scrutinized a little more, the ice shrinks. But Luke Hughes understands what it takes this time of year, I think. So it'll be interesting to see, but they're going to rely on him heavily, no question about it. He is going to play a lot.
And kind of with that, can I just have one more question for you? I know Simone Nemeth spoke out a few months ago. He's been in the lineup since because Dougie went down. Dougie's obviously going to slot back in, and Nemeth is probably going to be the one that comes back out. And just looking at the Devils' youth on defense and going forward, I'm curious how Sheldon Keefe handles these situations, because we're going to talk about it once you hop off, probably about Calvin DeHaan's comments yesterday and about how they're frustrated players that don't get into the lineup, and players can now voice their frustrations where, when you played, people probably bottled it up and just tried to prove that they were, worth being put in the lineup. Things have changed, right? So I'm curious how Sheldon Keefe handles these things. And I know the Kovacevic comment was taken a little bit out of context, and I'm not going to, say anything about that. But, what have you seen from Sheldon Keefe so far and just handling the younger players?
Well, I think he's done an excellent job. Look, I mean, you have to have tough decisions as a coach. You like to have tough decisions, who's in, who's out of the lineup. That means your organization's getting deeper, and it means you've got more options along the way, and there's more of a competition and a good, healthy competitiveness within your lineup, and I think that keeps you sharp as a team, as a player. And so they've had some of those situations with young defensemen on the back end, but that's part of development. Look, I mean, I've been there when I was a young defenseman, and I'd played 5-6 years. We brought in Fetisov, and Steryakov brought in some defensemen from Russia. And early on in that season, after playing a lot of hockey in '88 and all the playoffs, and I was one of those guys on the bubble at the time for a little bit, just because of numbers. Yeah, of course you're going to be angry. Of course you're going to, if you're any kind of competitor, you want to be in the lineup every night, and you're going to be pissed a little bit. That's a good thing. Having said that, for the most part, Sheldon's communicated. He holds guys accountable. I think he's done a really good job. And look, I think the Kovacevic thing, taken out of context, it was emotional. He wasn't happy the way the team's playing. You got to have thick skin sometimes as a player. I get it. It's different nowadays, and you got to handle everybody maybe a little more with kid gloves, but it's all as a player, you want communication. And sometimes it's not always fair. Who's in, who's out. You don't make those decisions. But having said that, you just make sure the next time you're in, you give them a reason not to take you out. And that's kind of how I looked at it. And I'm a believer, playoff time, if you're going to make any noise, and I speak from experience and the runs we had during my playing days, and I'm fortunate enough to be on some great teams that were deep and won some championships. You need 26, 27, 28 guys to do something for you in the playoffs if you're going to go a long way, whether it's because of injuries, whether it's because matchups or certain guys you want in on different nights. It's always been that way. And when you get in there, you just make sure you're ready. So we will see what happens come playoff time. But the coach makes those decisions, and you should be angry, but you have to channel your emotions the right way. Like I said, sometimes it's not always fair. It just isn't. They do what they think is best for that particular night and what gives the team a best chance to win. And sometimes coaches are wrong. They know that.
Yeah.
And then they adjust to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That night, or 18 straight nights in Calvin DeHaan's case. But Ken, we really appreciate your time today. We'll look for your coverage here down the stretch and through the first round of the playoffs. And I know we can also catch you sometimes on NHL Network. But great insights on that whole that hit and the series. It's one that Jonny, who's sort of a closeted Devils fan and who truly loves the Devils, not the Rangers, he'll be watching that one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it should be fun. Look, I mean, regardless, I bleed my colors. I love my team. I want to see them have success, like all fan bases do, regardless. We got to critique when it's not going well, but on the flip side, this is what it's all about, the playoffs, and in particular, just around the league. I mean, there's so many intriguing matchups. I really feel, guys, and I'll finish with this, there is going to be some upsets this year in the first round. And there's some incredible first-round matchups. What it looks like is going to be. How about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers?
Yeah.
Round one.
Yeah.
A really good hockey team's going to be going home.
Yeah.
That's insanity, but it's great because it's going to be ramped right up at the start of the playoffs. And I can't wait. Or Colorado, Dallas. I mean, two cup contenders. I mean, so if you get by somehow, that first-round teams like Colorado or Dallas or Tampa or Florida, then you're going to go, well, now we got a chance, but it's not going to be easy right out of the gate. And every team believes going in, they've got a puncher's chance. And that's why I think this has been a strange year. Different teams made the playoffs that we never expected in September. That always transpires, but we're going to see, in my opinion, it's not a bold statement, but I just feel there's going to be a few upsets. But I can't wait. The playoffs is what it's all about. It's going to be a lot of fun. Not just my team. I can't wait to watch throughout the league and see what happens here because we're going to see some surprises, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, Ken. Well, listen, thank you.
Ken.
And we'll definitely circle back with you during the playoffs. We appreciate your time today.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Speaking of first round upsets, I saw a great sign yesterday. This little kid had a sign at the Ottawa Senators game, like, don't catch Florida so we can get a first round bye against the Leafs. I sent it to Vic this morning. He was like, little fucking fuck. Just hilarious, Vic. This kid right here from Carter Hamer on Twitter. Don't catch Florida. We want the first round bye. So we'll be talking about the Leafs upsetting the Ottawa Senators, because that would be the upset, honestly, not the other way around. But where do you want to go from here? Because I want to talk about.
I want to wrap the Cotter. Yeah. I just want to put some predictions out there for the Cotter thing. I'm gonna say one game is all he gets. I would be shocked if there's more than one game. Has it been confirmed that there's a hearing? Because I didn't. I saw it yesterday. Yesterday it was confirmed.
Yeah, I'll double check, but I saw yesterday that Paul Cotter was having a hearing today. Paul Cotter will have a hearing tomorrow for an illegal check to the head against the New York Islanders. That was from NHL Player Safety.
Okay, so yeah, you're talking about at least one game. I'd have a hard time seeing them go more than one game. What do you think?
Agree. No, I fully agree, honestly. Like we said, it's a 50-50 puck that almost seemed unavoidable for Cotter to make contact with Pelech. But because Pelech draws blood, because his reaction, even though the replay doesn't really show Cotter going right over to Pelech and, probably saying, my bad, bro, I didn't mean it, even though it doesn't really matter. Like, players can do that, players can't do that. Like, it still happens. I still look at that and say, good on Cotter for going right over to Pelech and saying something, but player safety isn't going to look at that and say, oh, well, he apologized, so no games for him.
If you were running player safety, that's how it would go. It would be,
probably.
He said he was sorry, so it's okay.
Yeah, so it's okay. I kind of want to talk about my weekend quick before we do jump into the Calvin Haan stuff. I'm sure that's gonna be a big topic of conversation here, and we'll probably use that for our crispy hot take. But I had the fortunate pleasure of hanging out with the Gaudreau family this weekend, Jane and Guy, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, thanks to Glenn Heffron, our friend of the show, the USHL commissioner. I spent the whole week with Glenn, and every night at the bar with him, I was he's hilarious, man. I was cracking up at some of the shit Glenn was saying all week. But the USHL and Sioux Falls Stampede had me out to be there for the inaugural Gaudreau Award, which represents a player that is the most like Johnny and Maddie, that is out in the community, loves the game of hockey, and just brings their spirit, out onto the ice. And Ethan Wittenbach was the award winner this year. He's a kid I've known since he was 10 years old. He's from Roslyn, New York. His dad owned the rink that we skated at in the summers, and his dad, Andrew, would actually let Ethan, as a little 10-year-old, come out and skate with us. The college guys that were out there, and the names that were out there when I was skating was like Shane Pinto was playing in the USHL at the time. Adam Fox was at Harvard. Charlie McAvoy would come every now and then. Sonny Milano was playing for Columbus. Like, there were some, big names out there on the ice, and Ethan got to be a part of that. And to see Ethan now being a stud in the USHL as an 18-year-old, putting up 50 points, he's committed to Quinnipiac, and seeing the Gaudreaus and the Wittenbachs spend the weekend together, it was super special. And I had the chance to actually sit with Jane and be on the ice with Guy, and the team. So I heard Johnny and Maddie's stories all weekend, and it was just really special. And Jane and Guy were so nice, so open. And one of the stories they told that really stood out to me was, Jane had told me that Johnny was really afraid of flying and really afraid of turbulence. And the Calgary Flames, being where they are, they have to fly pretty long flights. So there were so many flights that they had an extra 30 minutes in the air because Johnny, had voiced his fear of turbulence. So the guys would be like, why did it take so long to land? And the pilots would be like, well, go talk to Johnny, because he was the one, who said something. So
they would take a more indirect route so they wouldn't have to hit turbulence. Is that what you're saying?
So Johnny wouldn't be scared. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hearing something like that, it was super cool. And I have just chills talking about it. And I just had such a great time talking and hearing stories with the Gaudreaus.
Let me say this. I don't think it's ever going to get old seeing Guy out on the ice.
Yeah.
With whatever team's warm up.
He was chirping me too, because I was wearing USA stuff.
Every time I see him, whether it's with Calgary, Philly, look, Mr. Gaudreau is a hockey coach. First and foremost, he taught those boys how to play hockey. And then there's about, I don't know, there's probably a handful of other kids, a dozen, maybe more. And I'm sure there's hundreds of kids, but Buddy Robinson, Eric Robinson, Charlie Bastaturo was a national champion at Union and a captain at Union. There's a group of kids from the South Jersey area that are all byproducts of Mr. Gaudreau. He taught them all from a very, very young age at Hollydale Ice Arena in Sewell, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And so he really does have sort of a tentacle line to a number of different players that have made it in a high level, in a high level hockey situation. And so, I can imagine for him being on the ice is probably hard, but also soothing. He
didn't have his own skates. He was borrowing a pair of skates. So he said his feet were hurting, so he couldn't actually really move around out there, but just having him out there was cool. But yeah, keep going. Sorry.
But it just, so I just love every time I see another team. USA Hockey did it at the Four Nations. He's just one of the nicest people ever. I've met Mrs. Gaudreau maybe once or twice, but I didn't know her all that well. Mm-hmm. I'd met Guy many more times.
She knows you. She told me to tell you hi.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. We're all from the same hockey community. The Philly, South Jersey hockey community it's one hockey community. I'm just saying I didn't know her very well. I met her a few times. Again, it's no secret why the boys were the way that they were, because their parents were the way that they were. It was obvious that they were raised, the right way. But I love to see Guy out on the ice with different teams. I really do. It's something that I enjoy. I saw Meredith Gaudreau just gave birth. I think it was to their son. I believe it was.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Not that long ago. So again, the emotions just keep going for that family. Can't imagine the fact that this is just, it's something that is clearly they have to live with. And so it was good to see Guy back out on the ice with Sioux Falls, doing that, doing the whole thing with the award with the USHL. I enjoy seeing that stuff on social media. It's just kind of one of those like heartwarming things that you see every time that is happening.
Yeah, and one thing I think you mentioned it maybe a week or two ago, but the Gaudreau family is putting on a 5K, which is actually raising money for a playground, in their area for students with disabilities. So, we can talk about that foundation a little bit as it comes up. It's going to be May 31st, so we can put more information on where people can donate to the Gaudreau family for this 5K because Jane was talking about it, and he is actually running in the competitive 5K and then walking in the non-competitive 5K. So he's doing a 10K. But I thought that was super cool too. So, the Gaudreaus obviously continue to do amazing things, and it was really just a special honor for me to spend, a Saturday with them. It was really cool. So, I just wanted to thank the USHL, the Sioux Falls Stampede, and Glenn especially for having me out there.
And did you finally feel like you got a fair shake at tryouts this time around? What is this, like the 7th time you tried
That
to
was
play
my
in the
third one.
USHL?
So that was where the premise for the video started. It was going to be like my day in the USHL because I had tried out for the Sioux Falls Stampede 2 years in a row and they had cut me. And Ethan, obviously, is one of their best players. So it was cool to like be on the ice with them for morning skate, hang out with all the guys. The night before, Colby, you'll actually make fun of me. A lot of the veteran players sat back while the team went to Fargo because the game didn't mean anything. So I hung out with Ethan and like 6 of the players and watched their game. They got Noodles and Co for dinner and Dairy Queen for dessert. I was like, I feel like I'm 18 again, like hanging out with a bunch of junior hockey players, like talking shit and just hanging out. But yeah, it was a fun weekend. It was super special, but transition from there, unless you have any final thoughts or any chirps or anything.
No.
Should we go into our Ninja Crispy hot take? Is it that time?
I think it's that time.
All right, so let's do it. Time now for the Crispy hot take presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
So it is an all-in-one system that includes a 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass container and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is a thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. You can cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container with max crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the description and stay tuned for a chance to win a free Ninja Crispy for one of our lucky fans. And we're not going to give a take. We're going to give crispy hot comments, and that is from Calvin Haan, who actually replied to my tweet yesterday, which was a very shocking notification to get while I was sitting in the airport. But Colby,
what was your tweet?
I tweeted, let me pull it up. So Molly Walker and Peter Baugh both put out the comments, and I quoted Molly and said, my exact words were, Calvin Haan doesn't owe the New York Rangers anything, so I'm very excited to hear what he has to say about what he's experienced. You have to think there are some others around the organization who have similar sentiments, but might not feel that they're in a position to speak out. It's nice to see a player willing to speak their mind openly. And then Calvin, I don't want to read this whole thing, but, he replied to my tweet. He actually messaged me on Twitter too. So I was talking to him a little bit yesterday. Not going to, give the details of that conversation, but, this whole situation was a player frustrated, but did not think this was a on the record comment that would reach social media. And I think that's why, he came out to Twitter and addressed the comments that were being made. He obviously gets on the ice. He comes off the ice and realizes that everything is going viral. All these different accounts are quoting it, putting it on a quote graphic. And that was probably not his intention, or definitely was not his intention. So he wanted to wait. I think the initial comments were that he was going to wait for exit day to really speak his thoughts. But, clearly with everything going viral and the way the media works now, when things can just be said and then 30 seconds later they're on the internet, he wanted to address it and give it from his own words. And I actually thought he articulated everything perfectly. Any competitive person, Colby, like you, and maybe I'm not the most competitive, but I can still feel for what he had to say. Nobody wants to sit and watch their team play hockey, especially.
Well, imagine you get traded and then you play 3 games.
He played 3 games, 3 in a row, and they won all 3.
Team gets points in all 3 of those games.
I think they let him 1 goal.
and then you sit for 18 straight games when your back end is anything but impressive. Again, I'm not playing a violin for him, but you have a 2-year-old, you have a family, you move across the country, and then you literally just, you're 18 straight games as a healthy scratch. Like, I don't know. Like, Calvin DeHaan is not a borderline NHL player. He's an NHL player.
Yeah. He was just on a contender in Colorado.
18 in a row for a team as bad as the New York Rangers is crazy.
Yeah.
And he said it. I'm not expecting 20 minutes. I'm not expecting the red carpet. I know Calvin well. He's an awesome guy. Like, he is one of the most laid back, fun guys you can be around. Good personality. I mean, again, like your team is better having a guy like him on your team, not just on the ice, off the ice. So,
yeah.
Clearly frustrated with the way that he's been treated. I don't know what the communication with him has been like. I did write him yesterday. I texted him and he just said, "I'm dealing with a shitstorm. Let's talk later."
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to defend Calvin DeHaan to the ends because
I think
I've been
everyone is
around
well.
him and I know him well. And he's a phenomenal guy.
But I think everyone after he wrote that on Twitter is taking his side. I mean, I looked through the comments yesterday and I don't think there's anyone who's like, you're wrong, for how you feel. But this is the thing too. And, last year the Rangers won almost like they were winning games. So none of this stuff comes to light. When you're losing games, these things happen. And I know the conversation now is going to be like about the Rangers and people not wanting to play here because of how players are treated. But the thing with Calvin Haan and the thing with, honestly, a lot of the Rangers that have spoken out, these players that have been, I'm not going to use the word like victimized, but have, kind of taken the short end of the stick and have been scratched. They have every right to speak their mind because the team's not winning hockey games. If you're being scratched and your best players are playing well and people are playing well in front of you, yeah, you're probably going to shut up because the team's winning.
When you're Laviolette has just been so unwilling to make changes, whether it's the power play, whether it's, the whole thing of Gabe Perreault, like just scratch after scratch. Hey, welcome to pro hockey. We told you were Bobby Orr, and now you're a healthy scratch for Matt Rempe. Like, it just, I have a hard time understanding what they're doing with Perreault. Like, why do you bring this kid out of school and then listen? I said it on the show. I think he's playing in the American League next year for Hartford. I don't see him starting in the National Hockey League, and people are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. He's so good." I mean, even you're one of them. You think that he's the second coming of Christ, but it's crazy to me that you would bring a guy into a team that's really not playing for anything at this point, and you wouldn't even have him in the lineup. I mean, to me, that's where Drury needs to pull the trump card on him and say he's playing, right? Yeah. I don't care if you have the lineup decisions, Lavi, that guy's playing. So ugly, man. It's quickly gotten ugly with that situation, with that kid not playing. Like, I just can't understand.
And here's actually where I do want to address the concern, because NVitali21 made a good comment. Too many guys have spoken out about being frustrated with scratches, poor communication, and accountability only on certain guys. Is it more coach or GM at this point? And listen, there are 32 teams in the NHL, and there's a lot of players that get scratched and get treated not necessarily this way, but that can't make their way into the lineup. But you don't hear them speaking out on losing teams too. Like, that's the concern. There are players unhappy in every organization, right, Colby? Like, that's something that is common. If you're not playing, you're not happy. But the fact that this keeps happening with the Rangers organization, that's where the problem is. Like, and that's what I don't really understand, because I'm not in that room day to day. I don't know what the communication is like. But this common trend of Kakko, Jones, VC, and now DeHaan speaking out, there has to be something deeper.
Well, I'm just going to tell you this. Scratches, communication is coach. Like, it's not the general manager's job to have conversations with guys. Now, maybe if it's 18 in a row, but again, I don't think Calvin is a guy they're looking at for next year. I don't think, but it still shouldn't matter.
And I've seen coaches that treat scratches and treat injured players like shit, like basically like they don't exist.
Yeah, well, I've never seen the scratch one. I've seen the injured thing.
Yeah.
I think that's changing. I think that's an old school thing.
Mhm.
Scratch players when I first came into pro hockey, you weren't even really allowed to be around injured players, you weren't even really allowed to be around the team.
Which is nuts.
If the team arrived at 10 a.m., the scratches are there at 7 a.m. getting their workout in, getting their treatment in, whatever, and then not even allowed to really be around the guys. So it's concerning. Excuse me. It's the let's just say this. The flaming dumpster that is the New York Rangers, the Flames are just getting bigger.
Mhm.
And you just have to wonder what Dolan is going to do, because he's not the most rational guy.
Well,
And
Friday we'll see what happens. Friday is the day.
where does he sit with a lot of these things? So, what else do we have today? I think we'll spend tomorrow. We can get into playoff matchups tomorrow. I don't.
Thursday we'll do a whole playoff preview with the matchups.
Yeah, and Dallas, Colorado, yeah, that's locked in, but we'll kind of save that for tomorrow. I think we're just kind of putting a little bit of a bow on the regular season. So starting next week, we'll go 5 days a week because playoffs start. So that will start next week. This will be our last sort of normal Monday through Thursday type of week, and as we roll into next week. Vic, what is the consensus amongst the chat on the Paul Cotter suspension? I always like
Did you do a poll? Or did a poll?
Yeah, Vic put a poll into the chat. The other thing I wanted to circle back on, I don't know if James Page is here. He finished second in the morning Cuppa bracket challenge. We didn't give him any love. The third person was Colin Kelly. Torts loves Western Michigans. That was the third place. Johnny's side piece was the fourth place, and that's Dylan Newbon. And then rounding out the top five was Comeback Kirill, Michael Krish, and that's about it. There were not a lot of people that picked Western Michigan. Probably. There was probably only, let's say at most, maybe like 20 people that picked Western Michigan out of 230. So, I don't know, Johnny, I think what should happen, I think you should give me $100 since I won.
That was never part of the deal.
Yeah, I know, but we should probably make it part of the deal.
That's bullshit.
So we've got 46% of the chat, 1 game. 23% of the chat, 2 games. 22% of the chat, 0 games. I wonder how frequent it is that they have a hearing and no games come out of it. I wonder how frequent that happens.
That sounds like a Jeff Merrick question. I feel like he would have the answer to that.
Yeah, he might. I haven't seen him in the chat today. Sometimes he's listening while he's getting like a workout in. So he's not active in the chat, but he's usually listening.
Jeff can find an answer for his show later today, I'm sure, on the sheet. Zach, if you're listening, which you usually are.
Yeah, Zach is in the chat. I did see Zach. I did see Zach in the chat. So any other end of season like teams that don't make the playoffs? Let me give you one. Having spent a bunch of time around people at the Frozen Four in like a looser setting, seems like the consensus for me, unless it's Chicago, I think Schaefer is the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft. That seems like the consensus from talking to some high level hockey people, scouts and GMs. And like, I think Chicago gets number 1 overall. They go forward. They need another forward. It's probably Michael Misa. But if it's anybody else, like let's say San Jose gets the first overall pick again, I think it's Schaefer. There's also the consensus. The consensus from people is everybody's concerned that it's going to be rigged and the Boston Bruins are going to get the number 1 overall pick. Like, I'm talking like a GM said that to me and was like, Jeremy Jacobs runs the league. Boston will get the first overall pick, depending on, as long as they're in that, because you can only move 5 spots, obviously.
I mean, they are the fourth worst team. Like,
no, I know, I know,
yeah.
but like I said, there's still a game or two that has to shake out, and Boston has been picking up some points as of lately. You know, Vic is asking if we saw the Gavin McKenna goal.
Yeah, it was sick. So sick.
I did see that on social media. That kid needs to play college hockey.
Mhm.
He is bored in the WHL. I mean, this is sick. That's pretty ridiculous.
He didn't look bored doing that.
And let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't he related to Connor Bedard? Aren't they like distant cousins?
I think I remember hearing that, but like I'm not the person to ask.
But they like don't know each other. I think when people ask them about it, they're like, yeah, we're related, but like we're not really like we're not like close or anything.
I'm not the person to ask though, so I can't really give that answer.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying cousins. Yeah, they're
cousins through
yeah.
marriage. I don't know why I thought it was, but oh, they're cousins. Oh yeah. Okay, so they're loosely related. We'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe second cousins or something.
That's pretty much what I got for you today, Johnny. I look forward to kind of digging into the playoffs as this week goes along.
Yep. It's good to be back home and like we're back in our spots. I
got to set up my office. Yeah. It's a work in progress here. I still need to get an area rug for my office. I got to figure out, the shelves behind me. I'm not really even hooked up with, the printer's not even hooked up that you see over my shoulder right now. So,
but we'll have our shit together by the end of the week, by the start of playoffs. I feel like, you've been moving, I've been traveling. Things have just been like on the move like these past like 3 weeks.
I did get to meet J Rock. I see J Rock in the chat. I did get to spend a second with him. He came over to between the benches and said hello. He showed me his phone and he said, "Are you known St. Louis Blues hater?" And like obviously, like right away, I knew it was J Rock when I read that. So that I thought that was pretty funny. Saw Jeremiah. I think you got a chance to see him too, right?
Yeah, I threw a hit on him in the concourse.
Little
I
hip
saw
check
him from a distance and I ran up to him and gave him a little shoulder.
Yeah, I got to meet Jeremiah's wife at the Frozen Four. Very, very lovely person. Don't know why she's with him, but very lovely individual. So it's nice to meet. Let's call it Jeremiah's better half. I think I can safely say better half. So that was nice. There's Jeremiah in the chat. He must he told me he was going to Vegas after this. So
yeah, he's there now.
He's in Vegas right now. Maybe he was up partying.
Thanks a lot, Colby.
What'd you say? Thanks a lot, Colby. Yep, you got it, Jeremiah. So, Johnny, what do we got for Bet365? What are we thinking about for tonight?
Yep. So tonight we're actually going to look at an individual player, the player that everyone in the hockey world is very excited about. But first, let me just give a quick word from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. So download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION, NATION, in all caps to get in on the game. You must be 19 or older. So please play responsibly. And we are going with Ivan Demidov, anytime goal scorer. He's due to play tonight from what it sounds like. He'll draw into the lineup in Montreal against the Chicago Blackhawks. It's plus 150. That is must-watch television. I'm fired up to see this kid play for the first time live because I had not tuned into any KHL games. I just see the highlights on social media. So pumped to see him. And obviously the Montreal Canadiens need a point to clinch the playoffs tonight. So they probably will do it, I imagine, against Chicago. And yeah, that's the bet of the night tonight.
Do we think Demidov's going to come in? Like, we could. Okay, we're going to save this conversation for tomorrow because I know you're struggling right now. But I want to preface this to the chat. A topic for tomorrow, and Vic, if you could just write this down because I'll forget. What rookie that's coming right in is actually going to make a difference? Because you've got Demidov, you've got Leonard in the playoffs, you're going to have Bouillon potentially in the playoffs. Who's going to make a difference? And I'm going to save my one comment that I was going to throw a lob on with Ryan Leonard. I'm going to save that for tomorrow because Johnny looks like he's going to pee his pants over there. So we'll save this topic for tomorrow's show, but we want you guys to think about this in the chat as well. As who is going? Oh, that's another one we forgot about.
Nikishin
in Carolina, right? So Let's table that for tomorrow. Think about it in the chat. We want to know what you guys think, and be ready to come and argue with us tomorrow about why we are right or why we are wrong about which rookie is going to do his thing the best. So make sure you give us a like on this episode. It's good to be back. As Johnny said, we're both back in our normal, well, not normal, new setting for me, normal setting for you. We got no Wi-Fi issues. We got no scheduling conflicts. We are excited to be back with you guys. This is our last week of Monday to Thursday, and it's Good Friday anyway. On Friday, we talked about doing a show, but we'll definitely take one off for Good Friday for not for Johnny and I, because we're not Good Friday people, but for everybody else. For everybody else. And then next week starts 5 days in a row. So subscribe to the channel. DFO live at the sheet. DFO live at noon. The sheet at 3. Zach's got some homework to do and a topic for discussion on the sheet, which I'm sure he will take to Jeff, and they will get that fired up for you guys. Other than that, like and subscribe. Have a good day, everybody. We'll see everybody at normal time, 9 a.m. tomorrow.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.